Hi, and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to play around a little bit with Niagara, and we're going to make some very simple smoke like this. So let's start right away by making a new folder, and we call it Niagara. Also check if you have the necessary plugins installed, enabled. I'm not sure if they're on by default actually. Yeah, you definitely need the Niagara effect system. And yeah, we're going to begin with we're going to make a sprite. So first thing we're going to do is make a new material, and we're going to call it smokelet. Open it. And then we're going to get in a smoke texture. Actually, it's going to be a texture object, but let's check first if we can find a smoke here. Oh, sorry, a noise. My guess is those are default. This is a sample project that we started with. I guess those are default noise maps that come with Unreal, and I'm just going to use this one. Right click and convert to texture object. And then we're going to make it move a little bit. There is something called panner that we could use, but we're actually going to make it a little bit more complicated, and we're going to look for a material function called normal from height map chaos. And we're not going to use this directly. We're going to go in there, and it looks a little bit like this. And in here we find what we want, another function called motion four-way chaos. So we're just going to copy that and bring it back here. And here we can plug in the texture. And as you can see, the smoke is already moving in different directions. So what it does basically is, if we look inside, again, pops up on the second monitor, sorry. What it basically does, it blends four textures on top of each other, and it moves them in different directions with different speeds. So you could do this yourself basically, but that's an easier way to get it going quickly. So you can adjust the speed here if you want. So you can add a scalar parameter and call it speed, expose that. We can get rid of this. And then we add a radial gradient exponential and use it as a mask for the noise. So we multiply it with chaos, and we can use that for opacity, which we don't see yet because it is not set to translucent yet. So now you have a little bit a smoky feature here, and I'm going to change the background to make it a little bit more visible. So here you can see it. And then we need to change the speed here to 1 or whatever we want, so we can see what's going on here. And you see that this gradient is maybe a little bit too even. So what we can do is we can actually use the chaos also for the radius to break it up a little bit. We just do that by plugging it in there. And then you see it's yeah, it's a little bit more fragmented at the edges. And what we might want to do is do a little lerp here. To maybe reduce the contrast a little bit. Something like this maybe. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so we got a little cloudlet moving, so to speak, and we can now use this for our particle system, for the smoke. We might want to bring in the particle color here. So let's close those now, put them on the side, get rid of this. The next thing we're going to do is make a new particle system, and we click here on Niagara, and there are different templates that you can work with. And we're going with minimal template, and we're going to hit create. This way we get an almost empty template, so we can change all the parameters ourselves. Call it NS smoke, and double click, and then we get this. So what we have here is the particle system, and we're going to emit some particles. So here we have different sections. We have a section for emitter spawn, so we can add some features here at spawn time, so when it's being created. And then over time we can modify the emitter by adding features here, and we're going to add a spawn rate here. So we tell it to emit particles, and now you see a white blob here basically, and this is particles being emitted. And the next section, particle spawn, is basically what state the particles are in when they begin their existence, when they spawn. So what we can do here is we can, for example, add a velocity, and this will prompt two possible ways to fix an issue here. We can either solve forces and velocities or apply initial forces. Let's click here, and he automatically fixes the problems by solving forces and velocities. And now you can see the particle is, or the particles are spawning at a rate. We can increase that to make more particles come out, and we can give them an initial velocity. I will select from cone here. That way, let's make it a little bit faster. That way you can already give them a certain angle spreading out. Let's put it to 20%, and we will make it go up. So this is going to be our smoke column basically. And in the next section, we have particle update. This is something that is happening to the particle while it is being there. And this, for example, could be forces that are being applied to the particle. And we're going to add a wind force. And again, we get a little warning here. And we can just add a module named drag. It can be done automatically for us. And then we can see that the wind force is pushing the particles already in a certain direction. And this is the x-axis and positive 100. So we can change this value if we want. For example, maybe reduce this a little bit. And also we can add, if we want, some turbulence. There's a couple of values to play with. Actually, the drag is making the particles slow down. It's like an air resistance kind of thing. So we can reduce these values if you think the particles are not moving fast enough, or we can also add a wind force going upwards a little bit so they rise a little bit longer. We could change the initial velocity, make it a little bit stronger, something like that. So at first they will be very fast from that velocity, and they will then slow down because they are slowed down by the drag value here. But let's for now leave it like this, and let's drag it into the viewport, save it, and see what it looks like when we have it in the scene. So those nasty white spheres, or better circles, because they're mapped on a plane, we will get rid of them now by using our material that we just created in the as a sprite material. We just drag it in here, and then we get those little smokelets rising up. But they're right now very uniform, and they're not interacting with the light, so we need to take a look at that too. So the first thing we maybe can do is make them a little less uniform by breaking them up. In the initialized particle module under particle spawn, you will find certain attributes, and the spite UV mode is very helpful to make things a bit random. So it can flip it on both axes, which means that the particles won't always look the same. Also, we can give them some random rotation, which will help a lot. So not every sprite looks the same now, even though they're pretty much identical, I guess. Also, we need to have them grow right now, because let's change maybe the background here too. Yeah, so we can have them grow over time. It's a particle update again, because we want to change the scale over time, and we're looking for scale, sprite size. So if you're wondering why you don't see any particles now, that's because we need to go to initialize particle and change the sprite size mode, which is currently set to unset. And if we want to scale uniformly, we just click on uniform, and then you will see that the sprites are actually growing over time quite a lot. So we might reduce that value a little bit again, maybe to 30, and this one maybe to 1, or let's say 2. And also the spawn rate, maybe a little bit more than 10. And now we got a nice column of smoke, but we don't get much detail. Let's reduce the scale a little bit more because it's quite big, I guess. Yeah, so there are a few things I guess we can do. First of all, maybe the wind we will change to make it go a little bit faster again. And you can see what's really not so nice is how the particles are disappearing. They're not fading out, maybe as we would expect from smoke, but they're suddenly disappearing. So we need to take a look at the material again, I guess. So what we want to do is we want to animate the opacity over time, and we can do that by adding a dynamic parameter. We can use the red channel, and we're going to multiply this again. Those a little bit. Actually, it's nicer like this. And this parameter we can then add to the particle system. Again, it's under particle update. And we're going to animate parameter 1, float from curve. It's already going from 1 to 0. So we actually don't need to change anything right now. If we take a look, our smoke is already slowly fading out, so there is no more popping or anything. And we can change now, maybe if we want to have it go higher a little bit, but maybe the next thing we're going to take a look at is the shading, because it looks very flat now. It's not really interacting with the light. And what we could do is we could add a normal map to the material. Because right now it's just the base color. And of course we could mix that a little bit, the noise structure, into the base color, but let's try the normal first. Maybe we can also change the particle color real quick and see how that affects everything. By adding under particle spawn color module, we can give the particles a different color, maybe make it a little bit darker. So if we wanted red smoke, that would be the way to do it. Okay. All right, so a normal map to the material. Smooth normal sphere probably would work. Sphere and a normal map. Okay, let's just take one of those. So what this will do is we'll basically simulate the spherical normals on our plane. We just need to plug that into the normal, which you can't see right now. It's grayed out, and that's because it's set to polymetric non-directional. So you go to the material and you change it to surface translucency volume or forward shading. I guess that would also work. And then you get a normal input, and we just drag it in and apply it. And see what it looks like. So now we should be able to have it interact a little bit with our light in the scene. We could increase the size of the normal map a little bit. If the smoke is not opaque enough, what we can do is we can maybe plug a power here. So this is pretty much like a gamma correction. So if we reduce this to 0.5, it should be more opaque. This is what we want. That's it, more or less. We could play a little bit with the wind force. For that, it's better to make a new sprite render. And maybe deactivate the size for now. This way we can see better what the turbulence is doing. And maybe also for now reduce the angle of the cone. Yeah, and what you can also do if you want, you can add multiple wind forces, for example, if you want, because they are intertwined with the noise, and if you want to have control of the wind speed individually, then you can add a second module for that. That is no problem. Okay, let's go back and take a look at. I don't need that. Take a look at the scene again. Okay, I guess it looks okay now. Of course, you can, instead of making the smokelet in the material editor, you can, of course, use a real fluid dynamic software for that and bring in a better quality smokelet or cloudlet and render this. But this is what we're going to do in the next episode. Thanks for watching.